Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to the Versus Stars podcast. All my loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support. And remember, click that subscribe button, everybody. It's an amazing episode because Michael Charles Vaccaro boards the mothership. He now appears in The Consultant on Amazon Prime. Come aboard as we go traversing the stars. Hello, Mr. Vaccaro. Thank you so much for coming to the Versus Stars podcast.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
It's really my pleasure, sir. You're a fantastic actor, and I'm looking forward to the interview.
Oh, good. Me too. Let's do it.
So I always start off with a question of inspiration. So what inspired your love for acting and who your earliest influences?
Oh, gosh. My love for acting. You know what? Growing up as a little kid, I loved going to the theater. But where I first fell in love with it, we did a play when I was in second grade. It was called The Grinch Comes to Reed's Ferry Elementary School. And I played our principal. And our principal was a guy that had a buzz cut and he wore a fluorescent orange sweatshirt all the time. And so I had a bald cap on and I glued a piece of rug to it. And we got his sweatshirt and I was, 7 and wearing his huge sweatshirt. And I walked out and got a laugh. And as soon as I got that laugh, I was hooked. I was like, okay, this is for me. And I've loved it ever since.
So did you play it correctly or did you make fun of him in the performance?
Oh, totally made fun of him.
Were you supposed to? Was that the part of the character, or?
Yeah, it was part of it. It was part of like doing some mannerisms and stuff that were like him intentionally to get a laugh. So,
all right. So you didn't get suspended or anything?
I didn't get suspended. No, he liked it. He liked it, and all the teachers were cracking up. So
that's cool. So I read that you used to do magic shows. Is that correct?
I did used to do magic shows. Yeah, growing up, I loved magic. There was a guy named Wendell Gibson, which he was related to Walter Gibson, who wrote The Shadow. If you've ever heard of that movie, there were some books that were turned into that movie. And he was a magician. He had a magic shop in the town next door to where I grew up, and would go over to that to meetings once a week and get into doing magic. And then I would do performances in my backyard. And I would charge 50 cents for popcorn. And that's how I would entice all of the kids to come over. And I would actually make a little money and perform some magic. So
just like the movie theater or going to the real theater, you upcharge them on the popcorn.
That's right. That's right. Now I know $8 is what I should have charged.
So are we talking like sleight of hand magic, or this like local like up close street magic? Like what kind of magic were you doing?
Yeah, I mostly love close up magic. So yeah, I do a lot of close up. I do some mid range stuff, some of the bigger stuff, but not a ton of it. Mostly close up.
So what did being a magician? I guess that's what you were. I guess you're a magician.
Yeah.
What did that teach you about performing and capturing an audience?
Oh gosh, it teaches you focus. It teaches you where people's attention goes during something, because one of the big things with magic is learning how to do misdirection. So they're focusing one place where something's happening in another place that you don't want them to see. That kind of all lends to acting for sure. Learning where the audience's focus is going at all times, when the eyes are on you and when they're not, when you're important, when you're not, right? When to draw something away from something else. Yeah.
So when you do like theater work, did that influence how you approach that kind of work when you have an audience in front of you and having that attention on you?
As far as what do you mean? As far when I'm doing theater work, has that influenced my work in TV and film?
Did understanding your audience in that manner help you when you were doing your theater performances?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I actually ran a theater company for a while, in addition to doing a bunch of theater. And just, again, same thing, learning your audience, learning who your audience is, what's going to attract them, what's going to draw them in. When I was running the theater, I'm like, okay, this type of show is going to draw an audience in. This one's not. This type of character is going to really relate to my audience that I have here, where my theater is. So yeah, all of it plays a part.
Oh, that's awesome! I didn't know you ran a theater.
I did 7 years. 7 years of running a theater. Yeah.
Now, did you perform?
So it was a friend of mine, Judy O'Neill, opened it originally, and I joined the theater company just to be part of the theater company, and ended up running the whole theater for 7 years with a co-person. And it was just a labor of love, little 50-seat theater. We would put up all sorts of great theater, and eventually the landlord kept raising the rates, and we just couldn't charge $50 for a show in a little tiny theater. So that was the end of it. But man, it was a blast. Had so much fun doing that.
Now, were you starring in the same plays within your theater?
Sometimes I would star in them, sometimes I wouldn't. It really would vary. I kind of did everything. So I did some producing, I did some directing. I also am artistic, and I built all the sets and painted all the sets. And
Oh, that's
um,
awesome.
yeah, so I had I was like that guy that was like, let's put on a show, and I would do it all.
I was gonna say, like, if you don't star in the show in the theater that you own, be like, excuse me, no. I
Right? Yeah,
run this place. I'm the star. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you've done you've done theater, you've done television, you've done magician. You have done a lot of performance in front of TV and audience, everything else. That must be absolutely amazing. Which one do you like better, live or recorded?
I gotta say, as an actor, I love the immediate feedback that you get from an audience, right? And you get that with sitcoms some, because you're performing in front of a studio audience, typically with sitcoms, but you don't really get it in most other film and TV. You kind of hope that maybe if it's a comedy, you're kind of hoping that maybe you can get the production crew to crack up, right? But when they're seeing it 6 times, by the sixth take, they're not laughing anymore. So I love that immediate feedback. You know exactly if the audience is with you and if they're enjoying it by that.
Now, are these shows that had a laugh track, or were the laughter you heard when you were doing the sitcoms the actual
Oh,
audience?
when you're doing sitcoms, no, you typically are going to tape some of it, if not all of it, in front of an actual audience. So you're going to hear that. And then what they do is they take the laughter that they get from that studio audience, and they do what's called sweetening. So they'll actually go in and they'll bump it up where they need to, they'll lower it where they need to. If it didn't happen on a joke that they needed on, they'll put it in on over that joke. So
awesome.
yeah.
So you recently appeared on The Consultant on Amazon Prime. So how did you get involved with the project?
What's funny is I got an audition in October of 2021. And it was for a guy in the back of a taxi cab, and he was just crying and no dialogue, and that was the part, crying in the back of a taxi cab. And I I called up my agents, and I was like, what is this audition you guys are getting me? No, I don't want to do this. Then a week later, I get another audition. This time the audition is to crying in an office, giving yourself a sponge bath, no dialogue. And I'm like, what is up? This is the second role of crying, But then they said, take a look at who's doing this. And so I took a look, and once you see Matt Shackman, WandaVision fame,
Yeah.
right, and Succession, and then you've got Christoph Waltz, obviously, as a huge draw. You've got Andrew Mittman was one of the producers who produced the Elvis movie that was just out, as well as Wednesday. You've got Steve Stark, who is a producer also on Wednesday. He produced a show that I was in years ago called The Event, that was a sci-fi show with Jason Ritter. And Handmaid's Tale is his claim to fame. So once you saw all these huge people on it, you were like, oh my God, I got to do this. I don't care what I do. I'll pick my nose if I get to be with you guys, right? So that's how the audition came up. And because of COVID, all these auditions nowadays are done, through self-tape. So you're doing them at home and sending them in, and just, they go off into the ether, and you kind of hope that you hear something. And so I was like, man, how do I do a crying scene giving myself a sponge bath, right? Like, do I really give myself the sponge bath? Do I mind giving myself the sponge bath? All right. So I ended up just going for it. I did it in my bedroom, and I put plastic all over the floor. And I thought, oh, being in the bedroom would make me feel more intimate and vulnerable. And so I did the whole thing and sent it in, and lo and behold, off of that one audition, they cast me.
What were you thinking when you were reading it? I was like, what the is this? Like, what?
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah. Right away, I was like, this is warped, right? They give me a bucket of water that they use to clean up, So I don't want to give away too much in the show, but they used to clean up some stuff that happened earlier, and I was like, well, this is warped. So,
now,
which I love. That's absolutely what I love about it.
now, when you get the role for the audition, and it says, like, clean yourself while crying, do they give you any background, like why this is happening? Does that make any impact, or you just make the assumption?
They give you a couple of pages. They give you a little small description of the character. So I knew that I was a middle manager, right? and I knew that this guy, Christoph Waltz, was a consultant coming in to consult with the company, and that he was smelling a bad odor every time he would come into the office, and he couldn't quite pinpoint it. And as he was getting introduced to people, he was sniffing them. And so I knew all of that going in. So I knew that, I end up being the culprit. And and so yeah, I had that context to work with. And then I just knew, like, because it was such a warped show, I wanted to have a real deep sense of loss. Like, what would it mean for a guy who loses his job, and because he loses his job, like, loses everything? Like, how do I make it those stakes that high? Right. And unfortunately, I have a friend of mine who ran a theater out here who passed away from COVID. And I was actually putting together his video montage for his memorial service when my audition came in for this role. And I actually transferred the emotion and the loss that I was feeling over him to that audition. And actually, before we shot, when we were shooting it on the pilot, I actually brought the video montage that I made for him, and I watched it over in the corner before I shot my scene.
That's great. I mean, that is one of the most intense moments of the entire series. Is when he thinks he's gonna get fired, so she gets the bucket and sponge and everything like that. And as part of that, I was wondering. I mean, there's obviously many, probably multi-layer reasons for like the crying. Once again, is there a sense of the embarrassment? Is the sense of desperation of losing, potentially losing this job? What is the biggest factor, do you think, in how upset he is at that moment?
I mean, it's all of the above. So I had to make the stakes really high. So what I created for myself is that I'm a single dad, and that if I don't have a job, I'm gonna lose visitation rights with my kids. So that's what I created to make the stakes super high. But it's all of that for the character. It's Ian is going through it all, and it's I'll use Christoph's words. Christoph doesn't like to say what all of his back stuff is, and he just wants to leave it for the audience to interpret what he did. So I put all of that kind of stuff in there, and what you get out of it is hopefully what you get out of it.
Well, like I said, it's such an amazing intense scene, and to me, Consult in many ways was, at least especially in that scene, acts like an allegory for, I think, like working class, just how desperate we are to hold on to these jobs. Like this is life and death. What happens. Like, once again, like I'm a high school teacher. What would what and I have a family, I have a wife, I have a house. What happens if you lose that job? I mean, the importance of that job beyond just what you do is your ability to survive in your family, everything else. There's so much layered into that.
Yeah, I mean, besides just creating that, income for your family and to be able to live, it's that whole corporate culture and what's happened with the American corporate culture over the years and how it's adjusted. And where did this mentality come from that you got to work, a zillion hours a day, 7 days a week, and you're not really successful, and you're not working hard enough for the company if you're not putting in all that overtime, and you're not, available at the drop of a hat to do anything and everything for the company. Where did that mentality come from, and what does that mentality mean? And is it healthy? Is it not? What's good about it? What's not good about it? All right, all of that is getting explored in this.
I think that's a perfect description of everything, and like I said, and working class America. I'll wager it wasn't the working class that came up with that concept of the work harder, overtime, don't call out. It probably wasn't the working class, probably was management at some level.
Yeah, and if you look at what people consider success, it's kind of that hustle mode, right? Go for it, go for it, go for it, go for it, and that's considered success for a big part of the world. But is it really? Should it be that, or should we look at other options? Who knows?
So when your pre-acting life, when you have, like I said, you ran a theater, you did all this other work, did that experience as a regular working job? I mean, acting's working as well, but I'm saying, to me, it's in between working within a corporation and working, let's say, as which I guess you're almost like a what do they call it, a free, not a free agent, but there's a word for it. Did that working like within like a corporate structure or under management, thing of that nature, help also get you to where you needed to be for that episode?
Sure. Yeah, it definitely did. So one of my past jobs is I actually worked in sales for the home improvement division of Sears. So we would go into people's homes and we would design kitchens and bathrooms and sell it to them. And our goal was to get in and do a same day sale, right? So spend as long as you need to. They think you're coming in for 90 minutes, but if it takes you 4 or 5 hours, that's what it takes. And your goal is to come out with a, $30,000-$40,000 sale at the end of that thing and hang on until they're kicking you out of the house. And so definitely it was watching with Sears. I mean, just look at that corporation and what's happened with Sears,
Yeah.
right? All the downsizing, all that happens. The CEO was a hedge fund manager that took the company over, and then he kind of started breaking it apart and selling it off in pieces, and the whole company started falling apart. And as the company's falling apart, all that pressure is on you as a employee, because they don't have the resources anymore that they used to throw money at stuff. They don't have the overhead, they don't have the people, they're laying off people left and right. So you're suddenly doing the job with 3 people and running appointments for 3 salespeople when it's just you, all that kind of stuff. So it all played a factor in playing this role for sure.
That's kind of funny. My father actually worked at Sears as well in the
Really?
sales department. I think he in the mattress department at Sears in Rhode Island. So no, I'm well aware about how bad Sears is and was, and probably it will always be if it hasn't closed.
And I don't want to badmouth Sears too much, because there was some great stuff about Sears too. I love the people that I worked with were wonderful, and some of my experience there was incredible. So I had it both. So I'm gonna play ride the fence a little bit and play it both for anybody that's listening from Sears.
So Sears like, God damn it. I guess we're not going to advertise on his show anymore.
That's right.
So
I think there's only a few, dozen Sears stores left actually in the whole country.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like I said, I'm not even sure if they're open here anymore. I must admit, if they are still open in Rhode Island, they did not do well enough for me to remember that they exist, unfortunately.
We had one here in Burbank, California that just closed over the last fall. So yeah.
It definitely, it probably definitely was due to management. You need the Christoph Waltz character to come in and try to fix the corporate company.
Yeah, we definitely did. We definitely.
So going back to because once again, and that scene, that once again the famous, I guess it's probably now is famous when you're like clean yourself with a sponge and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a difficult shot to do when because you're once again in front of the camera, in front of all that? How vulnerable do you feel at that moment just naturally?
Well, so first you meet with an intimacy coordinator, right? And the coordinator, that's kind of a new role that's come out now for shows. Some people like it, some people don't like it. But what they do is they go over everything that's being planned for the scenes, and to make sure that you're comfortable with it all, and explain everything. And then they're there on set as your advocate while you're shooting the scene, which is cool. So what they do is the day that you're shooting the scene, or the hour that you're shooting the scene, they close the set down and they get rid of everybody that's not absolutely necessary to do that scene. And then, for those of you that have watched that scene, I do a full nude shot, and there's a full back shot of me, and I'm not in the best shape of my life. And so there's a whole side shot where I'm like, wow, that is not attractive. But so you're completely vulnerable during that. So you're trying to be in the moment, right? And feeling everything that you're feeling as the character, so you can do your scene, but you've got a whole crew around you. And then in the meantime, it's also an intimate thing where you're revealing a part of yourself that normally doesn't get shown to anybody other than your significant other. Right? So, or a doctor or something. So yeah, it's completely vulnerable. And what was funny about this scene, it was so hard to stay in it, because as I'm giving myself the sponge bath, water's all running down my body, and the little, I don't know what you call it, the thing that they give you to cover the jewels, right? Kept the tape that was holding it on kept unsticking because of the water.
Oh no.
And so it kept falling off, and so they gave me another one that was dry, and I used that one, and that one fell off again. They tried to find a third one, and they couldn't find one for a while, and they finally got one, and it was something. So staying in character during all of that stuff while that's all happening, where I'm having to run to the bathroom and re-stick that stuff on myself and run back. All right. It was something.
So
Yeah.
you're like, I'm not trying to flash the camera people.
I was at one point, I was just like, okay, guys, we've all seen it, right? This is what it is. So let's just get the scene shot. But we couldn't do that as with the intimacy coordinator, everything. They're like, sorry, we're not allowed to do that. We've got to make sure you're covered up. So yeah.
So in preparing for the character in the show, were you familiar? Did you get familiar with the novel that was written about it? Like, did you know that even was a novel?
Yeah, so I knew it was a novel, and I bought the novel as soon as I got cast, and I read through that thing twice. And then when I arrived on set, Tony Bascal, the showrunner, was like, "Don't bother reading the novel." And I
Damn
was like,
it.
"Oh, okay." Yeah, because he there's a couple things in the novel that he sticks to, but for the most part, it's all different, and we'll see maybe over the years if the show continues, maybe he'll be able to bring some of that in over time. I don't really know what the plan is. Um, we're all kind of waiting to find out, so we'll see
You
what
should at least get
happens.
extra credit for reading the book, though. You should be like, do I get a raise or anything
Right?
for
I
having done it?
know. I know. I don't read anything, and I read that thing twice. No.
So the consultant, as you mentioned, stars Christoph Waltz, who is a legend, a genius in acting. So what was it like working with him on set?
So very professional. It was kind of funny. The first day that I met him on set, I was actually out at my trailer, walking to my trailer, and he was walking to his trailer. And I was like, oh, that's Christoph Waltz. So I'm like, okay, do I go say hi to him? I guess I should go say hi to him. And I walk up and I reach my hand out and I say, hey, Christoph, I'm Michael. I'm playing the role of Ian. He's like, I know who you are. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he didn't shake my hand, I think because of COVID and everything. So we bumped elbows. And and that was my first interaction with him. I was like, oh, was that a good interaction? Was that aloof? I didn't quite know how to take it. I was judging the whole thing. Right. But over the weeks that we filmed, he ended up being great. He's just very professional, comes in, knows all his work. He's got it all ready to go. Nice to everybody. Not overly friendly, I would say. I'd say he's a little bit aloof, but he's just staying in his stuff, right? And friendly when he needs to be, and but very professional and very giving as an actor with everybody and wanting to see everybody succeed, which is very cool. But man, it was intimidating at first. And any second that I was not on set that I could find a way to be on set so I could watch him work, I was watching him work, because you watch that guy, like he plays with a pencil and you're fascinated, right? He's so specific about the way that he plays with the pencil that you're just riveted watching him. And I'm like, man, I gotta take everything I can from this guy and put it in my own work. Right?
Well, you get to get sniffed by Christoph Waltz.
I do. I get sniffed.
How weird is that of a moment being like, dude
It
is
was
sniffing me?
definitely a funny moment. It was definitely a funny moment. And the reaction that I have is just kind of real, because I was like, this is so weird. Get sniffed by Christoph Waltz.
Is there a moment in your head where you're like, God, I hope I actually don't smell like the character? Yeah, and he's like, or maybe you should be in character. I don't know.
I did make sure and bring deodorant and I have that in my trailer. Then I would put it on before I would come on set.
So you go back to your trailer. There's no bucket and the sponge there waiting for you.
Then I would know something's up. I'm not long for this job. That's funny.
So the series centers around actually multiple different mysteries are centered around this show. Obviously, the mystery about Christopher Waltz himself, the murder, all this other stuff. So, how early in production did you know the answer to this mystery? Was it hard keeping the secret, and did knowing the secret affect how you approach your performance?
Good questions, man. So the scripts were being written as we went. So everything wasn't done ahead of time. So I never really knew where we were going with anything. I had read the book, and so I knew Christoph's character and what his character was like, but I didn't, we were all kind of not sure exactly where stuff was going as we did it, which part of that is awesome, because you get the script and you can't help but be in the moment, because you are in the moment. So that was good. So I would say it didn't really influence me at all, because I didn't know.
That's cool. So, Consultant actually has been a very popular series. A lot of people have liked it. So, what has that success meant to you?
What has the success meant to me? It's funny, because it seems like it's getting. I love the reaction people are having with it, because we intentionally marketed it as a dark comedy, a thriller, drama. It's like we intentionally marketed as all of the stuff because it's all of it and none of it at all at the same time, right? And so we were trying to get all audiences to get wrapped into this. And people seem to either super crazy love it or really strongly dislike it. It's like one or the other, right? And I kind of love that reaction. I'm hoping, obviously, it tends more on the I love it side, but I haven't really seen much from the success yet. You know, it's interesting. Here, what's kind of funny is being an actor, you know, I still have a day job. And so my day job is I sell blinds and shades and drapes and stuff for a company. And I'm in at this lady's house and I do a whole presentation for drapes and shades. And I'm like, I need about 25 minutes to put this order into the system for you and see what the total is going to be. So as I'm putting the stuff in the system, they start watching the pilot of The Consultant. And I'm like, oh my God, how is this going to go? Right? This is going to be very strange. And so my whole stripping scene happens, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a very we're speaking right now. They had no idea it was me. Out of context, they had not a clue that was me in there, and I didn't tell them.
You know, like if you buy from me, you'll get an autograph from the actual.
So it's kind of funny. You know, it's interesting because we're all waiting right now to see what happens. There's a potential writer strike that's coming up. And so a lot of shows are kind of scaling back a little bit and holding back on filming, waiting to see what's going to happen with this potential writer strike. And so where I was kind of hoping, oh, the success of the show would lead to a ton of auditions, really hasn't, just because I think there's not a lot of auditions to be had right now. So, you know, we'll just wait and see what happens. And hopefully I get some more good auditions from it. And I've got some good footage to use to help get me in the door for some stuff. And, you know, like all actors, we just pray for that next job.
So no whispers of a second season. You're not hearing anyone like, oh, just stay around the area over the next this many months.
Yeah, you know, as you can tell from the way from watching the show, is it's all kind of been left up in the air. It could be one season and done, and that could be it. It could be a second season with the same cast, or it could be a second season with a completely different cast, and only through line is Christoph, right? Because at the end of the first season, he takes on a new client. Right. And so we don't know what happens. We don't know. There's so much that could be explored with our characters still. We're all hoping. We all loved working with each other. We all want to be back. But who knows? You never know with this kind of stuff.
And who knows how many twins the character has of yours,
right?
You could be one at every company. You don't know.
Right. Maybe I leave thinking I'm going to escape him and I go to the other company only to find he's there at that company too.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows?
So what is next for you?
Next actually is called the Disability Film Challenge. It's a challenge. It's something that's been going on for about 10 years. Easter Seal sponsors it. And it's a weekend where we try to get as many people with disabilities in front of or behind the camera to participate in the weekend. Because I don't know if you know this, but 25% of people in the world today have some form of a disability. And yet there's only a small, minute percent that's seen on film and television. And so the goal of the Disability Film Challenge is to get as many people as they can in front and behind the camera. So I love that. I very much am for that. And we're filming that the weekend of the 1st. So the way those work is you film all Friday night, you write all Friday night. You film all day on Saturday, you edit all day on Sunday, and you turn it in Sunday night. So that's what's next for me. It's a lot of fun. You'd be amazed at what you can accomplish when you're under that kind of pressure.
So when is it going to be available for our listeners to view it, to watch it?
Yeah. So the Easter Seals website, you can go and they put them up, and they also put them up on YouTube. So, and then all of the filmmakers are able to do what they want with those films. So if they want to enter them into festivals and do all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you'll see all the films up all the time. And a lot of people have used them to further their work, and they've been cast in some big stuff because of being seen in these disability film challenges, which is wonderful.
So if possible, if you could email me the link, I can put it in the show notes, so make sure our listeners can find it.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
All right, very cool. Mr. Vaccaro, it's an honor to speak with you, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks. Okay. You too.